Call me now. And whatever you do, don't go to your daughter's house. For a second, I thought it was some kind of cruel joke. My daughter, Celeste, had invited me over for Sunday dinner, insisting she'd made my favorite roast and that the grandkids missed me. It was supposed to be a quiet evening, maybe the first one in months that didn't feel so lonely since Evelyn passed away. But Edward's message changed everything. My heart pounded as I stared at the words glowing on the screen. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. Within the hour, I'd learned that the woman I loved more than life itself wasn't planning a family dinner. She was planning a takeover. Edward arrived faster than I thought possible. 10 minutes after his text, his BMW slid to the curb, headlights combing across the hedges. By the time my doorbell rang, my coat was still on and my keys were clenched so tight in my fist they'd left little crescents in my palm. He stepped in without small talk. No, how are you, no weather. Just a glance at me, quick and clinical, like a doctor making sure the patient was still breathing. He set his leather folio on the dining table where Evelyn and I used to lay out birthday cakes and Christmas centerpieces. Tonight, it became an operating table. Harold, he said, voice low, before I open this, I need you to promise you won't call Celeste. Not tonight. Not until I say. The name scraped a raw place inside me. She invited me for dinner, I managed. Said the kids miss me. Edward's jaw tightened. They were counting on that. He flipped the folio. Paper whispered. Tabs. Copies. Stamps. The bureaucracy of betrayal. He slid a document across the table, turned so I could read the caption block at the top. In the matter of the guardianship and conservatorship of Harold Vance. My name, sterile and final on court paper. My throat went dry. They filed 3 days ago, Edward said. Your daughter, Celeste Vance Holloway, as the petitioner. Her husband, Grant Holloway, as a proposed co-conservator. I tried to laugh and sounded like a door hinge. Conservator? For what? For you, he said gently. For your person and estate. I stared at the lines that followed, allegations, exhibits, declarations. A version of me I didn't recognize. Edward tapped a page with his pen. They're asserting cognitive decline. They've attached what they call incidents. He read them, one by one, the way a surgeon names each instrument before the cut. January, confusion at Mountain Market. Stood in the cereal aisle 10 minutes, looking lost. He glanced up. Looking for the oatmeal Evelyn liked. I nodded. The store changed the aisle plan. It took me a minute. March, missed a cardiology follow-up. He looked at me again. I changed providers. The reminder went to my old email, I said. It sounded thin and guilty in the quiet room. May, couldn't recall primary care physician's name during intake at urgent care. I had bronchitis. Fever of 101. The doctor's name is Patel Nawaz. I switched to Dr. Mina Caldwell 2 months later. He turned to another tab. There's also a letter from Dr. Royce Bennett, your former PCP, noting mild cognitive concerns and recommending family support in financial decisions. It's vague but designed to scare a judge. I sank into the chair. The wood creaked like it was remembering our years. Evelyn laughing, Celeste on tiptoe reaching for icing roses on a cake. This is ridiculous. It's strategic, Edward said. And expensive. Which tells me they expect a payoff. He opened his laptop and rotated it toward me. A spreadsheet glowed, brutal in its order. Public records, loan filings, county tax sites. Grants Investment LLC took a bath on 2 ventures last year. They refinanced the house in Westbridge to cover a margin call. Their property taxes spiked. Private school tuition for Noah went up again. They're underwater. I stared at the numbers until they blurred. So the solution is to take me? The solution is to control your accounts, Edward corrected. Guardianship lets them move quickly. They've requested temporary orders ex parte without you present, claiming you're at risk of exploitation by unknown parties. His eyes softened. They mean you. I rubbed my temple. Evelyn would have known what to say. She would have made coffee and told me to breathe and reminded me who I am. Without her, the house felt bigger and I felt smaller. Edward slid a final page forward. Here's the part that made me send that text. There's a proposed power of attorney in their exhibits. Dated but not signed. My guess? Tonight's dinner was going to come with paperwork, routine estate planning, just initial here, Dad. If you'd walked in unsuspecting, he let the sentence finish itself. I looked at my hands. They weren't shaking now. They'd gone very still. How far does this go if they win? They'd control your bank accounts, investment portfolio, the house. They could sell the property, place you in a facility, authorize medical decisions. You'd have to ask for your own money. The room hummed, the refrigerator compressor, the heater ticking, the aftersound of a life that had always been secure. And you're telling me my daughter, me Celeste, chose this? I'm telling you someone you love is making catastrophic choices, Edward said. And I'm telling you we can fight them. But you follow my lead to the letter. I nodded because there was nothing else to do. Good, he said. He closed the folio, the sound crisp and final. First, you start a daily log, time stamped, detailed. Second, tomorrow morning I'm getting you in with Dr. Mina Caldwell for a comprehensive cognitive evaluation. Independent, unimpeachable. Third, you act like everything is normal. No confrontations. If they sense we know, they'll accelerate. I exhaled slowly, a controlled burn. And after that? After that, Edward said, standing, we let the truth do its work. He looked at the framed photo of Evelyn on the sideboard, her summer hat, her sly half-smile. She'd want you to fight. She would, I said, and felt something settle inside me, heavy, deliberate, unbreakable. The operating table had become a war table. And for the first time that night, I wasn't afraid. The morning sunlight slanted through the blinds, slicing my living room into neat bars of gold. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the faint tick of the grandfather clock. Normally, I liked that sound, it reminded me of structure, of order. But that morning, it felt like a countdown. Edward had been gone for hours, but his words were still echoing in my head. Guardianship. Mental incompetence. The phrases sounded sterile on paper, yet they carried the weight of a death sentence. I brewed coffee I barely tasted and spread the documents across my dining table. My name appeared again and again, like a brand burned into every page. Harold Vance, respondent. It didn't even sound like me anymore. There were photographs, 2 grainy shots taken without my knowledge. One showed me in the grocery store, staring at the shelves. Another, at the post office, flipping through a stack of envelopes. The captions underneath read, appears confused, possibly disoriented. I remembered that day. They'd rearranged the cereal aisle, and I was trying to find the brand Evelyn used to buy, the one with the blue box and the little heart logo. I had stood there too long, thinking about her. That's all it was. But now it had become evidence. The next exhibit was a statement from Dr. Royce Bennett, my former physician. I read his words 3 times, each pass making them more unreal. Mr. Vance demonstrated mild forgetfulness and difficulty recalling basic information during his last visit. I recommended family oversight regarding major financial matters. Family oversight. Translation: give your daughter the keys to your life. My stomach twisted. I hadn't seen Royce in nearly a year. The last time, I'd gone in for a flu shot and mentioned that sometimes I misplaced my reading glasses. He'd laughed about senior moments. That offhand comment had been transformed into legal ammunition. I kept reading each page more grotesque than the last. Emails between Celeste and her husband Grant, carefully worded but dripping with manipulation. One line stood out in bold from a draft affidavit. My father's decline has become impossible to ignore. We're acting out of love, not greed. Out of love. I almost laughed. There were even witness statements from neighbors, people I waved to when I took out the trash. One wrote that I sometimes forgot their names. She was right, I did. But only because she had twin granddaughters both named after flowers, Daisy and Dahlia. Anyone would mix that up. By the time I finished reading, my hands were trembling again. The whole thing felt choreographed, months, maybe years of subtle collection, each interaction twisted to fit a story. The phone rang, and I jumped. It was Edward. Morning, Harold. I have you scheduled with Dr. Mina Caldwell at 2 o'clock. She's one of the best geriatric psychiatrists in the state, independent, court certified. You'll want her report in our corner. I exhaled. I've been going through their exhibits. I figured you would. Don't let them rattle you. They need to prove incapacity beyond normal aging, and from what I've seen, this is smoke and mirrors. Still, document everything. And remember, no contact with Celeste yet. After we hung up, I sat back and stared at the photos again. My daughter had built a case as if I were some fragile antique to be wrapped and boxed away. I walked through the house, touching things Evelyn and I had chosen together: the framed photograph of Yellowstone, the worn quilt draped over the couch, the china cabinet filled with her crystal. She'd loved light, every piece of glass caught it differently. For a moment, I let myself imagine her voice, soft but firm: don't let them turn you into their story, Harold. Write your own. So I did. I took out a leather notebook from my study and wrote at the top of the first page. Log Day 1. 8 a.m. Made coffee, black, no sugar. Read documents. Mind clear. Judgment sound. Then another line, smaller but steadier. They think I'm confused. They're wrong. I signed it with a full flourish: Harold Vance. My handwriting was sharp, deliberate, defiant. Outside, the neighborhood stirred to life: cars starting, dogs barking, the sound of a lawn sprinkler clicking rhythmically. Life was continuing as if nothing had changed. But for me, everything had. Somewhere out there, my daughter was preparing for a courtroom battle I hadn't asked for. And for the first time, I realized she might actually believe she could win. When I walked into Dr. Mina Caldwell's office that afternoon, the air smelled faintly of eucalyptus and printer ink. Everything about her space was calm and ordered, the kind of place designed to lower your blood pressure before you sat down. She greeted me with a steady smile and a handshake that told me she'd already read the petition and knew exactly why I was there. Mr. Vance, she said, motioning toward the leather chair across from her desk, I understand you've had a difficult few days. I want you to know this evaluation isn't about judgment, it's about clarity. My job is to document where your mind actually is, not where someone claims it is. For the next 2 hours, she tested everything: memory recall, logic puzzles, vocabulary, arithmetic, problem solving. I caught myself smiling halfway through when she asked me to subtract by sevens from 100. You're trying to trip me up, I said. She chuckled. That's the idea. By the end, she looked up from her notes. Mr. Vance, I can tell you now your cognition is solid. Better than most people a decade younger. You're focused, articulate, and detail-oriented. I'll have a written report for your attorney tomorrow, but if you ask me, she tapped her pen thoughtfully, someone's been constructing a false narrative about you. Her words landed like a bomb on an open wound. For the first time in days, I breathed easier. Edward called as I left her office. "How'd it go?" She said. "I'm sharper than most people my age," I replied. I didn't forget her name, if that counts for something. "That's good news," he said. "We'll need that report filed before they can request a hearing. But we can't get complacent, Harold. They'll try to build momentum fast." "Then what's next?" I asked. "The next step," Edward said, "is to create our own evidence. We're going to build a paper trail stronger than theirs, one that shows you're lucid, responsible, and capable of managing your affairs. You'll keep a daily journal, every conversation, every appointment, every financial transaction. Time-stamped, dated, clear handwriting. Treat it like a scientist's logbook." I thought of the notebook already sitting on my table. "Started this morning," I said. "Good. Keep going. And remember, Celeste can't know that you know. If she realizes we're onto her, she might destroy documents or try to provoke you into an outburst she can record. Don't give her that." The warning chilled me. The idea that my own daughter might be waiting for me to act confused, to snap, to forget, to stumble felt like walking through a minefield inside my own life. That night, I forced myself to act normal. I watched a movie, made dinner, cleaned the kitchen. I even texted Celeste, pretending to confirm our Sunday dinner plan for the following week. "Looking forward to it, sweetheart. Been too long." Her reply came fast. "Me too, Dad. We'll make it special. Love you." 2 sentences that looked innocent but now read like bait. Before bed, I called Edward again. "What happens if they find out I'm seeing you?" "They won't," he said. "And even if they did, you're entitled to legal counsel. Just keep your side quiet. The element of surprise is our best weapon." As I hung up, I stood in front of the mirror. My reflection looked older than it had a week ago, but my eyes were steady. Beneath the fear, something else had begun to take shape, resolve I hadn't felt since before Evelyn died. They thought grief had weakened me. They mistook silence for surrender. I turned off the lights, wrote one last line in my log, and underlined it twice. "Tomorrow, I fight back." The house was still, but inside me, something was waking, a kind of clarity that only comes when there's nothing left to lose but your name. 3 days later, the phone rang while I was paying bills at the kitchen table. The number flashing across the screen made my stomach clench. Celeste. I stared at it for a moment, then picked up, steadying my voice. "Hey, sweetheart. Dad." Her tone was bright, too bright. "I've been trying to reach you all week. How have you been?" "Keeping busy," I said. "You know me. Crossword puzzles, the food bank. How's Noah?" "He's great. Getting taller every day." She laughed lightly, that rehearsed laugh she used when she wanted to sound casual. "Listen, Dad, about Sunday. Grant and I were thinking we should do something nice. Just family. I'll make that roast you love. Maybe open a bottle of the red you keep at my place." My fingers tightened around the phone. That bottle of wine, Evelyn's favorite, hadn't left my cellar since her funeral. The idea that Celeste still had one felt wrong, like she'd stolen a piece of her memory. "That sounds nice," I said carefully. "What's the occasion?" "No occasion." A beat of hesitation, just long enough for me to catch it. "It's just, you haven't been over in a while. And I've been thinking maybe it's time we start planning for the future. You know, organizing finances, estates, just in case." "In case what?" I asked, though I already knew. "Oh, Dad, you know what I mean. We're not getting any younger. It's just smart to have things in order." Her voice was syrupy smooth, the same tone she used when she was 16 and trying to convince me that staying out past curfew was practically safe. I'd fallen for it then. I wasn't going to now. I'll think about it, I said. Don't think too long, she replied, almost sweetly. You never know what might happen. The words were harmless on the surface, but something in the way she said them soft, deliberate sent a chill crawling up my neck. After she hung up, I sat there, staring at the phone, hearing Edward's warning echo in my mind, don't let them know that you know. I called him immediately. She wants dinner, I said. She mentioned planning for the future. She sounded rehearsed. Edward exhaled. Then she's setting the stage. My guess is she's going to hand you papers. Probably a power of attorney disguised as a routine trust form. Don't sign anything. Smile. Eat her roast. Compliment the decor. But don't sign a damn thing. I half laughed, but it came out shaky. You make it sound like espionage. In a way, it is, he said. They're building a narrative, you have to build yours. Keep your phone recording if you can do it discreetly. And Harold? His voice softened. Don't let this destroy you before the hearing. Stay focused. After the call, I walked through the house, rehearsing calm. The air smelled of lemon polish and faint dust. Evelyn's scent had long faded, but some days I still swore I caught a trace of her perfume in the hallway. I found myself talking to her photo on the mantel. You'd know how to handle this, wouldn't you? I murmured. You'd look her straight in the eye and tell her what she's throwing away. Her framed smile didn't answer, but the room felt less empty. That evening, a storm rolled in from the west, and thunder cracked over the hills like cannon fire. I sat by the window, watching the lightning carve white veins across the sky. Every flash lit the garden Evelyn used to tend roses, now wild, climbing the fence like they were trying to escape. I picked up my notebook. Log Day 4. 6:30 p.m. Phone call from Celeste. Requested Sunday dinner. Mentions estate planning. Tone, rehearsed, cautious, manipulative. My response, neutral. Did not engage. I paused, tapping the pen against the page. Then, beneath that entry, I wrote another sentence. The daughter I raised is gone. What's left is someone I don't recognize. My hand trembled for the first time that day. Not from fear but from grief. The next morning, Edward sent over a file. It was a dossier, really public records, credit reports, business filings. Everything on Grant Holloway. Their company, Holloway Venture Capital LLC, had collapsed 6 months earlier. Over-leveraged crypto deals, fraudulent partners, massive losses. They'd taken out a second mortgage on their mansion to stay afloat. The property taxes alone were over $20,000 a year. Private school tuition for Noah, $35,000. And now the bank had flagged them for delinquency. Edward's note at the bottom was blunt. They're drowning, Harold. And they think your estate is the lifeboat. I stared at the line until my eyes blurred. My own daughter, who'd grown up watching me work double shifts to pay for her college, was now trying to turn me into an asset to liquidate. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Celeste as a little girl, running through the yard with her braids flying, shouting for me to watch this, Daddy. And then I saw her now perfect hair, cold smile, a pen in her hand poised over a document that would erase me from my own life. I poured myself a glass of water and stood by the window until the sun came up. If she wanted to play this as a game of control, fine. I'd learned long ago that strength isn't about who strikes first, it's about who survives the longest. Sunday dinner was coming. And this time, I'd be ready. 2 weeks later, the day of the hearing arrived. I woke before dawn, long before the alarm, and sat in my kitchen watching the light crawl across the tile floor. The house felt impossibly quiet, too clean, too still. I poured coffee but barely drank it. Every clock ticked louder than it should have. At 8:30, Edward pulled into the driveway, his briefcase balanced on the passenger seat. When he stepped inside, he looked crisp, composed exactly the way I needed him to be. I, on the other hand, felt like my bones were humming. "Ready?" he asked. "As I'll ever be." We drove downtown in silence, the courthouse looming ahead like some great stone witness to other people's mistakes. The moment we stepped inside, I saw them, Celeste and Grant. They were seated across the hall with their lawyer, a slick man in an Italian suit who looked like he'd charge extra for empathy. Celeste wouldn't meet my eyes. Grant did, but only long enough to give me that faint smirk of someone who thinks they've already won. When the clerk called, in the matter of the guardianship and conservatorship of Harold Vance, I felt my heart beat double. We sat. Judge Amelia Rhodes, president, mid-50s, silver hair cut sharply, eyes like tempered steel. She looked like someone who'd seen every lie in the book and grown bored of them. Celeste's attorney went first. He stood, buttoning his jacket, projecting warmth like a stage actor. "Your Honor," he began, "this is a simple, tragic case of a daughter trying to protect her aging father. Mr. Vance is a good man, but his memory lapses and recent confusion suggest he is no longer capable of managing his finances responsibly. My client seeks guardianship solely to ensure his safety and financial stability." He slid a stack of photos and medical statements across the table. "Exhibit A through D," he said. "Documented incidents of disorientation, missed appointments, and erratic behavior." Judge Rhodes glanced through them, expression unreadable. "Continue." He nodded. "In today's world, elder fraud is rampant. My client merely wants to ensure her father's legacy is preserved rather than squandered." When he sat down, Celeste dabbed at imaginary tears. Grant patted her knee like a man performing grief for the camera. Edward rose slowly, every movement deliberate. "Your Honor, if I may." "You may proceed," the judge said. "First," he said, sliding his own folder forward, "we'd like to submit a cognitive evaluation performed by Dr. Mina Caldwell, a board-certified geriatric psychiatrist, completed last week. Dr. Caldwell's assessment concludes Mr. Vance exhibits no signs of cognitive decline, dementia, or incompetence of any kind. In fact, she notes his reasoning and memory function as above average for his age." He handed over the report. The judge skimmed it, nodded slightly. Edward continued, voice steady but carrying steel beneath. "Second, the so-called evidence presented by the petitioners has been thoroughly contextualized. The photograph in the grocery aisle. Mr. Vance was looking for a discontinued product his late wife used to buy. The alleged disorientation at a medical appointment. He had a fever of 101. The forgotten phone number. He'd recently changed providers. None of these incidents constitute cognitive impairment, they constitute being human." He paused, letting the words settle. Then his tone shifted, softer but lethal. "Third, Your Honor, we now know why this petition was filed so urgently. Financial distress." He pressed a key on his laptop, projecting an image on the courtroom monitor. "Bank filings, property tax records, loan defaults, all under Grant Holloway's name. The petitioners are facing foreclosure, unpaid tuition, and substantial investment losses. Their financial motive is clear." Celeste's lawyer shot to his feet. "Objection irrelevant to the question of Mr. Vance's capacity." "Overruled," Judge Rhodes said. "Motive is always relevant." Edward nodded. "Thank you, Your Honor." And finally, he reached into his briefcase and pulled out a small digital recorder. "We have something that leaves no room for interpretation." My pulse hammered. Edward pressed play. The courtroom filled with Celeste's voice, calm, cold, perfectly composed. "The hearing's in 2 weeks. Edward Keene can't help him if the judge believes Dr. Bennett's letter. It's all in place. What if he fights it? Grant's voice echoed. He won't, Celeste said. He still trusts me. Once the guardianship's granted, we list the house immediately. It should sell fast. That'll clear our debts, Grant said. He'll be fine, Celeste replied. There's that assisted living place in Brighton. He won't even realize he's not home anymore. When the audio stopped, the silence was absolute. Even the hum of the fluorescent lights seemed to vanish. Judge Rhodes's pen froze halfway down her notes. She looked up slowly, eyes hard as flint. Miss Holloway, is that your voice? Celeste's lawyer stammered. Your Honor, this recording was obtained without consent and... In a criminal case, perhaps, the judge interrupted. But this is a civil proceeding. I'm very interested in the intent it reveals. Celeste swallowed hard. Your Honor, that was taken out of context. We were just discussing possible future arrangements. Future arrangements that involve liquidating your father's estate while he's still alive, the judge snapped. Spare me the euphemisms, Mrs. Holloway. I've heard too many of them. Grant looked down at his shoes. Celeste's face went pale. Edward closed the recorder, his voice calm. Your Honor, this isn't a case of a loving daughter protecting her father. It's a calculated attempt at financial exploitation and fraudulent guardianship. They've fabricated medical concerns, misrepresented benign incidents, and attempted to manipulate the court system to seize control of over $5 million in assets. He gestured toward me. My client is of sound mind. He's here today, lucid, articulate, and betrayed by those who should have protected him. Judge Rhodes leaned back, exhaled slowly, and then spoke with the weight of finality. Petition denied. Dismissed with prejudice. Guardianship request is permanently barred. Furthermore, I'm issuing a restraining order. The petitioners are not to contact or approach Mr. Vance or his property for a minimum of 2 years. And given the evidence of intent, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for review of possible criminal charges, fraud and elder abuse. Her gavel struck once, sharp and final. Celeste gasped. Your Honor, please, he's my father. The judge's eyes softened only slightly. Then you should have remembered that before you tried to steal from him. The courtroom emptied slowly. I stayed seated for a moment, trying to steady the shaking in my hands. Noah was waiting outside in the hallway. Edward had made sure he was kept out of the hearing, safe from the spectacle. When I stepped through the doors, he looked up at me, uncertain. Is it over? I smiled, though it felt heavy. Yes, kiddo. It's over. He exhaled, shoulders slumping in relief. Are you okay? I nodded. Better than okay. I placed a hand on his shoulder. You did the right thing. You saved me. From behind me, Celeste's voice called softly. Dad. I turned. She was standing near the courtroom doors, eyes wet, makeup smudged. For a split second, I saw the little girl she'd once been, the one who'd begged me to push her higher on the swing, who'd promised she'd always take care of me when I got old. I understand now, I said quietly. I understand exactly who you are. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She lowered her gaze, and Grant guided her away. Edward joined me. You handled that better than most men would have. I didn't win, I said. I just survived. He nodded once. Sometimes, that's the same thing. As we walked out into the cool autumn air, the courthouse doors shut behind us with a metallic thud. For the first time in months, I felt something close to peace, not because justice had been served, but because the truth had finally been spoken aloud. And once the truth is out, it can't be taken back. The week after the hearing felt strangely quiet, as if the whole world had exhaled and gone still. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. The house didn't feel like a battlefield anymore, it felt like a home again, though emptier, lonelier, and older somehow. Edward came by that Monday morning, a small smile softening his usual lawyer's composure. He set a thick folder on the table. "That's everything," he said. "The court order, Dr. Caldwell's certification, and the restraining notice. You're officially free, Harold." "Free," I repeated, tasting the word like something foreign. "That's a good word." He nodded. "You did well in there. Most men crumble when it's their own blood across the aisle." "I didn't win," I said quietly. "I just didn't lose." Edward studied me for a moment, then smiled faintly. "You'd be surprised how rare that is." He stood. "Now, about the next step, you need to update your estate plan. I'll draft a new will this week. I assume your wishes haven't changed." "They've only become clearer," I said. "Celeste gets nothing. Not a cent. I want that in writing explicitly." He nodded without judgment. "Understood." "And Noah?" "All of it," I said. "The house, the investments, the savings. Everything goes into a trust for him. He's the only one who stood up for the truth when it mattered." Edward's voice softened. "I'll make it happen." He gathered his papers and left, his car's engine fading down the street until all I could hear was the wind against the windows. Later that afternoon, I found Noah sitting on the porch steps, backpack at his feet. His eyes were red. "They kicked me out," he said simply. I blinked. "What?" "Mom and Dad. They said I betrayed the family." I tried to explain, but they wouldn't listen. "They told me to go live with the man I love so much." His voice cracked on the last words. My chest tightened. "Then that's exactly what you'll do," I said. "Come on, kid. You're home now." He hesitated. "Are you sure? I don't want to be a burden." "You're not a burden," I said firmly. "You're family. That's more than I can say for your parents right now." He smiled weakly, and in that moment, I saw the boy I used to take fishing when he was little, the same shy grin, the same flicker of hope in his eyes. That evening, I cleared out the guest room. Evelyn's old quilt still smelled faintly of lavender and summer. When Noah came to the doorway, suitcase in hand, I said, "It's yours now." He looked around, touching the worn furniture, the framed picture of his grandmother. "She was beautiful," he said. "She was," I replied. "And she would have liked you." We settled into a rhythm quickly. Breakfast at 7, school drop-off at 8, dinner together at 6. I'd forgotten how full a house could feel when someone else lived in it. The silence that had haunted me since Evelyn's death was replaced with the sound of footsteps, laughter, and teenage clatter. Sometimes, late at night, I'd find him at the dining table, doing homework beneath the warm glow of the lamp. He'd glance up and ask, "Are you okay, Grandpa?" And I'd tell him the truth, "Better than I've been in a long time." On Friday, Edward called again. "The district attorney has decided to move forward," he said. "Fraud and elder abuse charges. Celeste and Grant will likely get suspended sentences if they plead guilty." I closed my eyes. "So it's really over?" "Yes," he said. "It's really over." After we hung up, I stepped into the garden where Evelyn's roses had once bloomed. Most were gone now, replaced by stubborn weeds and wild growth. Noah joined me with a pair of gloves. "Let's bring them back," he said. We spent the afternoon clearing the beds, planting new seedlings side by side. When the sun began to set, he looked up and asked quietly, "Do you think Mom's sorry?" I paused, pressing the soil flat around a young rose stem. "Maybe," I said. "But sorry doesn't fix everything. Sometimes, love breaks beyond repair." He nodded slowly. "I still love her," he whispered. I know, I said. I do too. The sky burned orange and gold as we worked in silence. For the first time, the ache in my chest felt bearable not because it was gone, but because someone else was carrying part of it with me. By the time darkness fell, the garden was clean again. New life, fragile and green, waited beneath the soil. Noah turned to me, dirt on his hands and sweat on his brow. Grandpa, he said, this feels like a fresh start. It is, I told him. And this time, we're going to do it right. 6 months passed. The house no longer echoed when I spoke. It hummed with life again, pans clattering in the kitchen, the squeak of Noah's sneakers on the hardwood floor, the low rumble of his music leaking from his headphones when he forgot to turn the volume down. We'd fallen into something steady. Safe. Real. Every morning, I brewed coffee for myself and poured orange juice for him. He'd rush out the door, muttering something about history homework or basketball practice, and I'd watch from the window the same way I once watched Celeste leave for school, hopeful, proud, and a little afraid of the world waiting outside. Then, one quiet afternoon, the phone rang. Edward. Harold, he said, the Crown finally reached a resolution. Celeste and Grant pled guilty, attempted fraud and financial exploitation. 2 years probation, suspended sentences. Their records marked. I stood there, silent, the hum of the refrigerator filling the pause. So it's done, I said. It's done, Edward confirmed. They won't be able to touch your estate, your accounts, or you. Legally, you're untouchable. I looked through the kitchen window, where Noah was kneeling in the garden, carefully watering the roses we'd planted in spring. The flowers were thriving, vivid reds and pinks bursting against the green. I could almost hear Evelyn's voice in the breeze, gentle and approving. Thank you, Edward, I said. For everything. You did the hard part, he replied. You fought back. After we hung up, I stepped outside. The late summer sun was soft and forgiving, and Noah looked up at me with a grin. The roses are finally taking off, he said. Grandma would have loved them. She would have, I agreed. She had a way with things that needed care. He smiled, a little proudly. Guess it runs in the family. We worked in silence for a while, pulling weeds and trimming stems. It felt good, hands in the dirt, heart at peace. For once, my thoughts didn't circle back to anger. Still, that night, as I sat by the window with a book I wasn't really reading, memories crept in. Celeste at 5 years old, running through the yard with Evelyn chasing behind. Her laughter, her soft curls, her promises of, Daddy, I'll always take care of you. Promises are easy when you're young. My chest ached with something between grief and forgiveness. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted peace, the kind Evelyn would have wanted for all of us, even for Celeste. A week later, a letter arrived. No return address, just my name scrawled in handwriting I'd known my entire life. I opened it slowly. Dad. I know I don't deserve to ask you for anything, not your forgiveness, not even your attention, but I'm asking anyway. I made terrible choices. Grant and I lost everything, and I told myself I was saving my family when I was really destroying it. I don't expect you to ever trust me again, but I need you to know that I think about what I did every single day. Tell Noah I'm sorry. Tell him I love him. I hope someday he can forgive me too. Love, Celeste. I read it twice, then set it down. My first instinct was to throw it away, but Evelyn's voice echoed in my mind, forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. I didn't write back. Not yet. But I didn't burn it either. I folded it neatly and placed it in the drawer beside Evelyn's photograph. That night, Noah found me in the living room. You okay? He asked, seeing the letter in my hand. Your mom wrote, I said. He hesitated. What did she say? She's sorry, I told him. She knows what she lost. Noah stared at the floor for a moment. Do you forgive her? I took a long breath, looking at the firelight flicker across the hearth. Forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. It's something you build, a little at a time. Like these roses out there, it takes patience and care, and sometimes it never quite blooms the way you hope. He nodded slowly, eyes glistening. I want to try, he said quietly. Even if she doesn't deserve it. I smiled faintly. That's what makes you better than the rest of us, kiddo. Autumn came, painting the trees gold. Life moved on, quietly, like the steady ticking of the clock in the hall. Every morning, I wrote in my journal me log that had started as proof of sanity but had become something else entirely. A record of gratitude. A map of healing. Log day 183. 6:30 a.m. Coffee. Sunlight through kitchen window. Mind clear. Heart lighter. Roses thriving. Sometimes survival isn't about fighting, it's about remembering who you are when the dust settles. Weeks later, Noah and I installed a small stone plaque at the edge of the garden. It bore Evelyn's name, her birth and death dates, and a quote we chose together. Family isn't always blood. It's the people who stand by you when everyone else walks away. When we were done, Noah stood beside me, hands in his pockets. Do you think Grandma would be proud of us? I smiled. I think she already is. He grinned, brushing soil off his jeans. Then we're doing okay. As the sun set, we stood together, looking at the house glowing warm behind us. The same house Celeste once tried to steal, now filled again with laughter, with life. I thought about what I'd learned not from lawyers or judges, but from pain itself. That love without integrity is possession, and family without honesty is a lie. That forgiveness doesn't erase the wound, but it keeps you from bleeding forever. Celeste had spent a year building her scheme. In the end, she lost everything: her father, her son, her reputation. But Noah had gained something stronger than inheritance. He'd gained a future built on truth. As for me, I'd gained peace. The kind that comes when the fight is over, and you realize you didn't just survive, you reclaimed your life. I placed my hand on Noah's shoulder. Come on, I said. Let's go home. We walked back toward the house together. The door closed softly behind us, shutting out the evening wind. Inside, the air smelled faintly of rain and roses, and for the first time in a long while, I felt whole again.